you go. There's your intro.
That was quick and abrupt. Just the way I've lived my life. Hey, let me first of all, before we get going here, I wanted to tell everybody about this big strawberry that I have on the end of my nose right now. I know your eyes are drawn right to it where you can't. So our oldest son, Tanner, is moving back to town, and so we're loading him up this weekend. We're moving back, and so we've been gathering up those brown tubs with the yellow top. I think you know the ones I'm talking about. You've seen them, different places. Costco's got them. We were at Sam's, and there was a stack that was so high. I was trying to grab them off there, and I finally did grab one off, and bam! It hit me right in the nose. As everything seems to hit me right in the nose. Julie's like, "What? My gosh! What have you done to yourself? Have you hurt yourself again?" I'm talking to young Tanner, who's moving back on the phone. He goes, "Man, there was just somebody here in the restaurant. We were talking about how when people get old, they hurt themselves, and they really don't know how they did it sometimes." I'm like, "Thanks a lot, son." Welcome to our Radio Ranchcast. This is a little podcast video presentation that we put together because at 821 Pineville Road, which many of us have lived a lot of our lives, there are many stories that come about things that have happened there, outside of there, generated by people that work there. And I thought, well, rather than making it just specifically about KZ106, where I've lived most of my radio career in general, and certainly here in Chattanooga, let's make it about all the radio stations in the building, because we have KZ106, we have 107.9 Nash Icon, a country station, where Dodger is a vital part of, along with the other stuff he does here. And then we have WGOW, AM and FM, which is where Bill Lockhart comes in, along with the work that he does with all of our radio stations. He has been instrumental in keeping those two frequencies afloat for a lot of years. Bill, how are you? Welcome.
I'm wonderful, and thank you. Glad to be here. It's been a good ride. I've been in Chattanooga and at the Radio Ranch since 1988 and January of '88. So hoping for a couple of more.
Bill and I actually crossed paths before here when we were working at WSON and WKDQ in the Evansville market in Henderson, Kentucky, and Bill was there. And what position? You were in the news department, I guess, at that point.
Yeah, let's see here. I did anchored news and was assistant news director on the two stations there, WSON and WKDQ, and there you go. Spent a couple of years in Evansville. It was a great time.
It was. At that point in time, Gabe Hobbs was there, which he became a real muckety-muck in the news talk business, and still is. And a guy named Ron Payne is there, which he and I have just been talking recently. He is in Tampa and working for a sports station in Tampa. Great guy, very talented guy. He just re-upped his contract, which is really good too. So Bill and I worked there, and we were drawn to one another because we both like to have a good time. I think that was part of it. And so Bill and I have had a number of good times, not only when we worked in the Evansville market, but a little history about Bill Lockhart. When you left there, you left and went to Cincinnati, right?
I did. Went to 55 KRC and Taft Broadcasting in Cincinnati. And so I was there for, 4 or 5 years and had a great time. And it was wonderful setting. Got to do some stringing work at the Reds games and saw a lot of Bengals football and all of that. So yeah, I had a great time in Cincinnati and worked with some tremendous people.
We moved Bill to Cincinnati, and I remember making that trip. And I remember your first apartment because the stairs. I don't know how many flights of stairs, but it was straight up. It was right the stairway, and it just kept going. It was like, man, are we going to have oxygen when we get up to the top? No, we didn't, but we've got everything. And you had a little place where you could actually get out on the roof right there. Kelly McCoy, you've known Bill Bob as long as I have, almost as long as I have. I bet you've got a Bill Lockhart story, don't you?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, well, let's see. What can I talk about? Actually, one of my favorite stories, honestly, Bill, was going to your wedding. You and Diana. That was the most fun wedding that I think I have ever been to. It was just a party and a celebration. But yeah, I mean, we gosh, Bill B is always over there in the newsroom when I'm on the air, and it's like, Bill, can you come in and give me 30 seconds on fill in the blank news story? And he walks in and just he's a natural, and he just fires it off. So yes, definitely some good times. Bill, however, is the one with all the stories, and I still maintain to this day he is the one that needs to write the book of 821 Pineville Road and put it all down in history, because he would be able to retire with millions.
Well, I don't know about that, but there are plenty of stories to tell. For the most part, I was working in news and with the talk properties, and we've had some characters with character. We like to say, and some tremendous folks along the way. I was trying to think. I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years back in the mid 90s, late 90s, a lot of our hosts, especially morning show hosts, tended to want to do some stupid stunts, but talk about them on air, as an example. And of course, Kevin West and Jim Reynolds were a big part of the morning show then, and have been for 25 plus years. And also former coworker Jeff was with us, and we did all kinds of stupid stuff. Like I think one time broadcast from the bottom of the Tennessee River in a diving suit, while it was to promote the cleanup of the Tennessee River. As one can imagine, in 1999 technology, this sounded like, well, worse than 10 cans in a string. But that the point was, it was done. Another time, let's see here. I think they opened up a climbing wall on one of those stone piers at the Walnut Street Bridge. So the morning show did a broadcast out there. Well, everybody was doing other things. A couple of them were 70 feet up in the air on a rope. One of them is politicking, and so I'm left by myself trying to get somebody to come down and do what they do and be a talk talent. So did crazy stuff like that. One of the times they were going to skydive from a guy out in I think it's in Jasper or somewhere. But in any case, to train for the skydive, they had to first jump off a bungee platform at Raccoon Mountain. I don't think any of them had ever bungeed before. And so I'm there and I'm thinking, my 3 main morning guys are going to go up like 500 feet and then, like a yo-yo, be suspending a whack up and down on this bungee platform. I really hope everybody makes it through this. Well, sure enough, they did, and it was made for great radio when they were talking about it afterwards. Then the skydive itself, and I'm thinking the same thing. Man, I hope I don't have to console a grieving widow or girlfriend here, but and I didn't. But all kinds of crazy stuff that the hosts did back in the 80s and the 90s. In talk, it's kind of a different animal. We have very few rules, and I mean, I can on one hand can tell you those. The first rule, of course, is protect the license. We're licensed by the FCC, so don't get us in trouble, right? Basically, don't say F, don't say S, try not to say GD. But the number one rule of talk radio is do not, under any circumstances, be boring. We pay these folks to have an opinion, and they do, and just back it up. That's all we ask. And I tell all these folks that have been on talk over the years in different ways. Look, you've lived your life experience. Tell us about it. Talk some shite, right? Tell us a story. So, and that's it. Talk some shite and tell us a story, and you'll be okay. We had one guy who, I swear, he kept a squirrel in his living room with all kinds of greenery and chicken wire and whatnot. He loved that squirrel. He really did.
I had forgotten about that.
So they're all kinds of personalities, and we've had some great times, and through it all, I think it comes down to just conversation. Be yourself, and and again, tell them a story.
You've had an array of talent that have come through there. I was on one of these calls not very long ago. We were just talking about the different people that have worked there. I mean, the Don Welches and Gene Colemans of the world that have, Jed Bescon, who's done a bunch of stuff for the road. Man, it's just amazing. If you got all the talent that has been through our building, certainly, but certainly on the talk stations, you just had a bunch of people who have come through and done talk shows over the years. Pretty amazing.
Well, yeah, some incredible talents, and some of those folks had, incredible issues. But don't we all?
Many of them did.
Well, I was talking about the jumping out of airplanes and climbing up the stone wall and at 6 o'clock in the morning. But we were all going through at one point or another some type of midlife crisis. Some of it an occupational hazard. Some of it, I don't know, self-inflicted, I suppose. But we're all kind of dealing with all this stuff. So we all have a little prism that we look through, and it's our life's prism. Some of them are scuffed up. Some of them have nail polish on the side, a little peace sign, all sorts of stuff. And some of them got look like it's been sandpapered. But we look through this prism, and that's our unique view of life. And that's what our hosts have done. I think of the folks who have gone before, the talk host, the late great Dr. Basketball. Man, what an incredible natural talk host. And just again, one of those characters with character. He went to the Kentucky Derby one time and with me, and I wanted him to go to see the Derby, see what it was like on the backside, see what it was like up in the press box, and to just walk around and experience it. Because I knew I wanted to hear him describe this, and he got years and years and years of great stories about that. The great Wally Witkowski, one of the funniest individuals you will ever want to meet, and he was a very smart guy, super smart. And so a lot of what he did, he knew exactly what he was doing. He was very self-aware. And the stories go on and on about him. One time we had it was a kind of a staff party, an on-air party down at T-Bone's. So, it's the tabs on me, and we do this. And I don't know, it's about $200 worth. It's fine. So I said, well, all right, I'm going to go, we'll settle up here. I said, I'll sign off. So $200, that's a decent tab for, have, 6-7 people. Well, little do I know that by the time I hit the parking lot, Wally had stood up and said, buttery nipples for everybody. So the next thing I know, I'm presented with a $689 tab without the tip. So thank you, Wally. He was great at spending other people's money. One other story, and this was, I don't know, late 90s, I guess, maybe early 2000s. But we had a great relationship and still do with the folks at Big River Brewing downtown, and they would have their specialty beers every quarter or so that they would roll out for a tapping. We would go down there for that, and we'd do live broadcast. Well, one time, I don't know whose idea this was, but the concept of a celebrity bartender was hatched. So different talk personalities were going to stand behind the bar and schmooze and groove and all this kind of stuff for maybe, a half hour or so. All right. So there were 4 or 5 of us that took turns, and it was going to end at 7 o'clock. All right. So 7 o'clock. Well, I'm kind of winding down. I'd done my thing. I'm shaking hands, and it's almost time to go. And Wally is behind the bar. Now, this is no fault at all of any of the great employees at Big River Grill and Brewing Works. This was, I think, an instance of where Wally, being behind the bar, had unfortunately been overserved because he was self-serving, right? Self-serving. So it had nothing to do with the establishment. So he's there. So it's like 3 minutes till 7, I'm going home. I've had all the fun I can have for right now, and I'm the remote is over. Happy to go home. So I'm walking, and I open the first door of Big River, and I'm going out the door, and I hear the unmistakable sound of glass breaking on ice, and I hear Wally, uh-oh. I just kept on walking. I know nothing.
Man, I'm all the time. Is there one news event that really kind of sticks with you as, wow, this is really, I know that you've covered so many things over a huge period of time, including Democratic conventions and other conventions and presidential visits. Is there one that just kind of sticks out in your mind as an event you'll never forget?
Well, obviously, 7/16/15, when the Fallen Five were taken, that was just an incredible news story that kept going. The Woodmore bus crash that happened in November, and that was just an incredible tragedy, and that was unfolding that afternoon. Of course, 9/11 was a huge deal, and from the story that changed us all, and that day did change everything in the United States and around the country and around the world. I will say this, just an anecdote about 9/11, and you'll be smiling in about a minute. September 10th, 2002. 1 year, or 364 days after 9/11. Brian Jennings, with news consultant with Citadel, comes into town, and so he meets with the staff. We go to Big River Grill downtown because he loved the beer there and liked the IPA, and so we're there, and we have dinner, we have drinks. So he and I are there, and it's almost 10 o'clock. And so he and I are just having one last beer and talking. And he said, well, now here's what's going to happen. Blah, blah, blah. And he said, there will be a moment of silence at the time that the first plane hit, like at 8:47. And I have this on good authority. It will be exactly 1 minute and 10 seconds. Okay. So that'll be really strange to hear silence on a radio station for 1 minute. He said, but it's going to go 1 minute and 10 seconds. And then, they'll go back to the program. He said, what people need to hear, what people want to hear right after that moment of silence, after they've been reflecting on all the terrible things that happened a year ago. The first thing they're going to need to hear is your radio station, the call letters. He said, so if I would come out of there at 1 minute and 11 seconds, and give them the call letters. Well, all right, Brian, you know what? You're the consultant. You're the news talk format captain. Well, I'm going to follow your lead.
Right.
So I'm in there, and sure enough, moment of silence. I look, minute 10, minute 15, minute 18. Good God, I can't stand it anymore. So I open the mic. WGOW Chattanooga. Followed by 1.5 minutes more silence. Well, that's what I remember about 9/11. And that's what some other folks remember about 9/11 through my lens. But I've enjoyed my career. I've met a lot of great people, and I do think at its core, radio is local. You can get content in a lot of different places, millions of different places. But I think at the end of the day, it's going to be the local personalities, the people like you, Scott, like you, Kelly. It's the folks that are comfortable, that people in Chattanooga, USA are comfortable with. Now, they may not like them, but they have.
I think they like me. I can't speak for Kelly.
I know what they say about me. Good God, they've threatened to check my keister so many times, but you don't have to like them to listen. But I do think that at the end of the day, it is personality driven, and it's the local personalities because people feel comfortable with them.
Well, I can tell you this. Go ahead.
I was going to say, can I ask Bill one thing? So many years on the air, and you mentioned the events, but so many times interacting with listeners or guests on the air over the years. Is there one or two quick little anecdotes or stories that you have with a caller or a guest that just blew your mind? You surprised, blown away, whatever it was.
I'll tell you right now, absolutely. This was 1990. Oh, I wish I had looked this up, but Tennessee played Notre Dame in South Bend. So Notre Dame was favored heavily, and it was in November, and then they didn't play that often. So Tennessee came from behind. I forget the circumstances, but it was a wonderful volunteer win, and they came from behind and they beat Notre Dame at South Bend. So it was on the air the next following Monday, midday, 10 to noon. And so I get a call, and it's this woman that I later come to know as Ms. June Griffin of Dayton, Tennessee. And so she's talking about the game. And she said, well, you know what about that game? You know why it happened? I said, you mean Tennessee beat Notre Dame in South Bend? There's a lot more to it than that. Really? Well, it's obvious that the Orange of Tennessee, the Protestants, went up to Catholic country and beat the Papists like they should have been beaten long ago. And it was the Orange of Tennessee over the green, the Kelly green of the Papists at Notre Dame. And at first I thought somebody is pushing my leg. And so I got asking follow-up questions, and you know what? That's exactly what she said. So that was my introduction to June Griffin. So one more thing. For a hot minute, this was like, I don't know, a couple of years. On WGOW AM in the afternoon, we aired a show out of Cincinnati. It was syndicated, Gary Burbank. It was a comedy show, light, current events, but really, really, really funny. An ensemble cast. So he came down a couple of times to visit for the station, and flew down. It was a direct flight from Cincy. So we had a whole night planned. We went for I think it was called the Booze Cruise or something, but on the Chattanooga Star, small boat, like maybe we got 300 on there, but I think we're only supposed to have like 200. So it's packed out. So he went, and man, everybody wanted to see him and be him and shake his hand and hug him, all this sort of stuff. Afterwards, went out to the Stone Lion. And we stayed at the Stone Lion until 3:00. Oh, did we ever? So picked him up at the air at the next day at 11 o'clock, and he's going. Well, I'm going to take him to the airport. And I said, man, every minute that you were in Chattanooga, from the time you checked into the hotel to the time at the Stone Lion at 3 in the morning when we closed it down, there was somebody in your face at all times. I mean, a foot away from you, wanting to talk to you, hang out with you, hear you say something funny. I said, man, that's got to wear on you. He said, you know what? The minute that they stop doing that, that's when I'm going to worry. And that's when I'm going to hang it up. Because as long as they're coming up to you and wanting to see and hear and talk to you, that's all worth it.
Absolutely.
Gary Burbank gets it.
Yes, without a doubt. Well, Bill, you're the guy that started talk radio in Chattanooga, Tennessee. You're the guy that cultivated and got it going. You're the one that saw Rush Limbaugh come in and save the AM dial, not only here but everywhere across America, and then built a talk station on the AM. Later, instrumental in having the FM talk station. We love you, man. You're a great guy. Besides being a great character, you're just one of those anchors that makes the Radio Ranch what it is today. A great place.
We all are so kind. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Just keep number 2 pencils away from him.
See, this is titanium, and it just means that I can reuse it, and it's very strong.
There's been a time or two when Bill Lockhart's got a little hot under the collar about this and that and the other thing. He goes, and the joke is, as Kelly would say, go ahead.
I'm going to get a number 2 pencil, and I'm going to plunge it repeatedly in my eye.
One more time. Bill, appreciate it, man. Kelly, as always, thank you. Thank you, Dodger, for making this thing happen. Radio Ranch Cast is one of those things we're going to do weekly. We'll have different guests that are there now. Some people that have been there, maybe moved to other different places. I posted a little thing on Facebook with Mike Allison today, who it popped one of those things that popped, a memory that popped up. We'll have him on one of these days real soon too. But thanks for everything you do and all your stories, buddy. We appreciate you, man.
Onward and upward.
Always. I guess that's it. We'll put a wrap on this Radio Ranch Cast. We'll catch everybody next week and see what's up our sleeve. Okay.
Stay safe.